Thursday, October 7th, 2010 to order. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Chairman McMillan,
Here.
Dr. Mackey, Mr. Andropon is out of town this evening at a state executive board meeting. Mrs. Griffin,
Present.
Mr. Hassan,
Here.
Mrs. Trimmy is also at an executive board meeting, and President Guidry.
Here.
You do have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Item 3, consideration of making a recommendation in reference of approving a request for grant funding in the amount of $1,700 from the Waterworks District 1 of Ward 1 for the cost associated with the creation of the district's website. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hassan, second by Ms. Griffin on item 3. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 3 passes. Item 4 is consideration of making a recommendation with reference to the approval of request grant funding in the amount of up to $200,000 for wastewater treatment rehabilitation project for Sewer District 11 of Ward 3. I need a motion.
So move.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Guidry, second by Ms. Griffin on item 4.
I have
Is there
a
any
question.
discussion? Mr. Hassan?
Yes, I don't know who this would be directed at. Brian?
Alan can give details specifically on this one. Mr. Hassan?
Alan, I just want to understand what this is. This is an existing treatment plant?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is Mallard Junction. We refer to it as Mallard Junction.
Okay.
System. Actually, the police jury sits as the board of that system. We, through a joint service agreement, allowed the Mallard Junction Water District to run it. This is a rehab project on the wastewater treatment pond out there that we've been working on for a while now, and this is funding for that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 4 carries. Item 5, consideration of making a recommendation with reference of approving a grant in the amount of $5,000 to the Southwest Louisiana 2010 Toys for Tots campaign Sulphur Housing Project Christmas Giving Program, with said funding to be allocated from Ward 4 Gaming Fund from District 13, who is Mr. Andropon. I need a motion on item 5.
I make a motion.
I got a motion and a second. Second by Mr.
I
Guidry
have a question.
and Ms. Griffin.
Thank you, sir. Brian, what is the total amount we do every year?
The police jury has $15,000
Okay.
from the parish-wide account for that, so this would be in addition to that for that
Okay,
area.
I'm used to that. I just wanted to know if they're going to still receive the same amount we've
Yes,
been.
ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 5 carries. Item 6, consideration of making a recommendation in reference to approving a request of grant funding in the amount of $55,000 for Vinton Harbor and Terminal District
Move on
for
6.
dredging project in Vinton Navigational Channel. Said funding be allocated $50,000 for parish-wide needs allocation of gaming fund and $5,000 from Ward 7 gaming fund. I got a motion by Mr. Hassan, second by President Guidry.
Question.
Yes, ma'am. Discussion, Ms. Griffin.
Thank you. It's, let me see if, I think I talked earlier. Is this the same project you're working on with Les?
No.
That's a different.
No, that's the
Okay, I
next
have a question, Mr. Chairman. The police jury originally awarded $275,000 for the project, and current assistance is needed. Can someone talk to me a little about that?
I'll let Mr. Hassan give some details, but as far as your particular question, that project originally is estimated, I believe, was like $1 million. The police jury had given $275,000 as stated. Believe mostly due to the BP spill and some of the effect on cost in that. The bid for the project, now that it's come through, is actually about $100,000 over budgeted, and so this request is for the police jury to assist with that. So Mr. Hassan had proposed this to have 55 of the 100,000 overage supplied by the police jury.
What did BP have to do with this spill over here at
Well,
Benton Harbor?
No, it's hard to say it's directly because of that, but there is a likelihood that the cause of that has caused this type of bid project to go up in terms of price, although I can't say that specifically. It's not that it was directly
Oh, I
affected by
asked
the-
you because you said it.
I didn't state it correctly. Just
Okay.
the inflationary pressures on that to have it go up was, I think, cited as a reason.
Okay, I understand. So
There
the
was no
to-
oil spill in
That's
Benton. I want to make
Well,
sure.
I was trying to figure out what was going on, but nevertheless, so the total amount of the finances that's needed is how much?
You mean for this one tonight?
Well, I know we already gave 275
Right, plus an additional.
plus an additional
50,000,
55.
right, so
That's
300
$345,000. So I guess my last question is somebody else going to help with this?
Yes, thank you, and Mr. Beam, if you
I'll let
don't
Mr.
mind, I would like to give Mr. Hassan the floor, that I think he can explain this, it's in his district, and
Thank
he
you, Mr.
knows the
Chairman.
term, so we'll let him have a shot at it.
Just to
We
explain,
heard you.
this is a dredging project on the Vinton drain ditch, which is the access to the port. The project was estimated at just under $1 million. They had asked originally for a 50-50 match from the jury, 500,000 being their original asking. Their estimates were based on prices at that time, which was about, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, about 9 months ago. They were still in the process of the Corps of Engineers approval. They've gotten that approval now. We did not give them the full 500,000 they originally asked for. We gave them 275. They came up with, they put the other funding up, which pretty much depleted what they had available. They're just asking, what we're doing here is a 50-50 match of the overage, because it went over. And what Brian was referring to in the with the BP situation, the particular item in the bid that went over was for barges. When they do the dredging, they have to use barges, and the price of those barges have gone up, and it is related to the BP situation.
Because the barges were not able to function?
No, just the demand for the barges are greater right now, so price has gone up.
Well, I don't have a problem with this, but I do have a problem with blaming it on BP. And the original request was $500,000, but I support this, and this is the same project that Les talked to me about, I think. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
Les,
Mr.
Is this
Farnham,
the-
if you'd come to the
Miss-
microphone, and
Thank
that
you.
way you can address Ms. Griffin's question. Please, Juror Les Farnham.
earlier when I conferred with you about, is this the project that I talked with you about?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
My questions are answered.
Any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 6 carries.
Oh, I got another question.
Go ahead on item 6. Yes, ma'am.
On item 6, where's this money coming from again?
It's coming from the
Gaming from, okay, Ward 7 gaming from. Fund.
parish-wide allocation of the gaming fund. Parish-wide needs allocation.
It's similar to what the breakdown, Ms. Griffin, of what was originally given, which some came from the parish-wide gaming fund and some from the Ward 7, so it's a combination.
Okay, thank you.
Item 7, consideration of making a recommendation with reference to approving request funding an amount of $35,000 from the Managing Board of the Southland Field in purpose of matching state grant to construct 6 T-hangars at the airport, with said funding being allocated as a loan from the Economic Development allocation of the gaming fund. Need a motion on item 7.
Move on 7.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Griffin, second by Mr. Hassan on item 7. Discussion? Objection? Hearing none, item 7 carries. At this time, is there any other matters for consideration with the Budget Committee? Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Guidry, second by Ms. Griffin. We stand adjourned.
Seventh, 2010 has now been called to order. We will have the invocation by Mr. Collins. We'll follow immediately with the pledge. Please stand.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Praise giving God all honor and praises for this day. God, you said where 2 or 3 are gathered, you are in thy midst. Now, God, I ask you to take over this meeting and direct us in the direction you want us to serve our people. God, we thank you for directing our people to vote for the renewal of our taxes so we can better serve our people. Lord, we ask you also to bless the family that have lost their loved one in the traffic accident, and also the family of the driver. All of these I ask in your darling Son, Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Would y'all join me in the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Yes, sir. Mr. Angelpon is absent tonight. He's at an executive board meeting of the Louisiana Police Jury Association. Mr. Brame. Here. Mr. Collins.
Here.
Mr. Farnham.
Here.
Mrs. Griffin.
Present.
Mr. Hassan.
Here.
Mr. Landry.
Here.
Dr. Mackey. Mr. McMillan.
Here.
Mr. Scott.
Here.
Mr. Spell.
Here.
Mr. Stelly.
Here.
Mr. Sias.
Present.
Mrs. Trimmy is also at the executive board meeting of the Police Jury Association, and President Guidry.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. And thank you all for being here tonight. And we want to ask before we begin, if there's anyone here that want to speak on any of the items that we have listed here tonight, we would ask that you would fill out one of the blue cards that are in the rear of the room. And please bring that card up to Ms. Jessica, and she'll proceed in bringing that to us so that we can call you on that item. So if there's anyone that's here tonight that would like to speak on any of the items, please fill out one of the blue cards. And before we begin, I'd like to take a little bit of a point of personal privilege for an employee that's back with us that was out for a while, who gives us all a hard time up here as jurors and everything. But we see him here tonight, and we just want to say to him, glad to see you back, and we hope that all is well. And that's Mr. Claude Smart. Please stand, Mr. Claude, would you please? Claude, my parish administrator asked me to ask you if you wanted to share any words with us tonight.
Well, I would like to thank everybody for their prayers and their thoughts. And by the grace of God, I'm alive, and I'm up here by choice, and see how it goes.
Thank you. At this time, we'll move on to item number 5. Take appropriate actions on applications for liquor and beer permits. Mr. Victor.
President, we have 13 applications for renewal, and we have 1 special events permit. We recommend they all be approved.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Ms. Griffin and a second by Mr. Spell. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. Item number 5 passes. Item number 6, consideration and approval of all payments of all current invoices.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Farnham and a second by Mr. Collins. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. Item number 6 passes. Item number 7, presentation of a proclamation to Ms. Ethel Pritt proclaiming Saturday, October 16, 2010 as Ms. Ethel Pritt Day in Calcasieu Parish in honor and recognition of her efforts in establishing the annual Ethel Pritt Hope Breast Cancer 3K Walk. At this time, I'd like to call on Mr. Scott to please come to the mic, and I would also ask that Ms. Ethel would please come to the mic as well.
Ethel, how are you? A little nervous? Don't be nervous. Don't tell her. That's okay. Well, on behalf of the citizens of Calcasieu Parish, we just like to take this opportunity to honor you. You know, it's one thing to sit back and watch a football game and all cheer because we see the great things that our team's doing, but it's an honor to be able to cheer for someone like you who's taken on a challenge of this magnitude. And I'll tell you, on behalf of a son that only knew his mother for 25 years, and grandchildren who never got to meet their grandmother, and daughters who miss their mother dearly, I would just like to say thank you for what you do. And on behalf of the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury and all of the citizens of Calcasieu Parish, we'd just like to honor you on October 16th. So if you let me read this for you right quick. Take a breath. Whereas a self-proclaimed simple country girl and farmer's wife, Miss Ethel Precht is founder and president of the Ethel Precht Hope Breast Cancer Foundation devoted to helping breast cancer survivors. Ms. Precht is also founder and host of one of the largest events in the Lake area, the annual Ethel Precht Hope Breast Cancer Walk, which has grown from 600 participants in 2004 to over 3,000 in 2009. This walk is dedicated to local survivors and their families whose struggles take them through some of the darkest moments in their lives, and the money raised goes to residents of Cameron, Calcasieu parishes to help offset what insurance does not pay, helping 250 survivors since 2004. In addition to our efforts to help breast cancer survivors, Ms. Preck carried the Olympic torch through Lake Charles in 1996. She received the Louisiana Association of Nonprofit Organizations 2009 Heroine Award and played a part of the 2006 locally filmed movie Little Chenier, A Cajun Story. Ms. Precht is a walking testimony that cancer does not always spell death. She is a woman, a mother, a grandmother, and a wife who is a 24-year breast cancer survivor. And through her leadership and dedication, she and the Ethel Precht Hope Breast Cancer Foundation carry on the fight for the daily needs, love, and financial support to the area's local breast cancer fighting warriors. And whereas the 7th annual Ethel Precht Hope Breast Cancer Walk will take place on Saturday, October 16th at the Lake Charles Civic Center. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury in regular session convened on the 7th day of October 2010 that Saturday, October 16th, 2010 is hereby proclaimed Miss Ethel Precht Day. Thank you very much.
If I could get a grip, I'll thank y'all so much for this honor, because it really is so, it's given to somebody that I don't feel like I deserve any of this. I do want to say that this walk has outgrown me completely, and the board, my board, and I'd like for the ones that's here to please stand, because without these women that's working so hard, and my husband that just puts up with whatever I say, he just goes along with it, Carl. But this walk has really become something I never dreamed would ever happen. And it's like I tell people, we only do this to put a smile on somebody's face when they're going through their darkest time. It's not that any of us get a paycheck or nothing. We only get a smile and a thank you, and that's all that's required. And it really isn't required. If you don't feel like doing it, that's fine too. But that's what, now this walk has become a year-round work project. I thought it was just going to be a little tiny walk, and then I just go back into, nobody knew me in the first place. And I figured, okay, this will be just, let's see if we can do this. And now it's grown to over 3,000. And I cannot thank people like y'all that has made it possible. And I want to thank y'all so very much, and please come out and show us survivors that you care, and show it with this. I know you care. So come out October the 16th, because I know all you men have wives, girlfriends, mothers that may have been touched by breast cancer. So come out and show us that we care, because it's a day for celebration of life. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Ms. Ethel. And we just want to ask that God just continue to bless you.
Get our group with her, too. Kevin, get our group with her, too.
Real quick,
Ms. Ethel Pritt.
I'd like to recognize two of our board members. I know we recognize them all, but there's two very special board members to me, and that's two of my sisters. We have Angel Scott and Betty Scott, so I'd just like to give them a round of applause.
Mr. Scott, if you would you have Ms. Ethel Pritt come back up with her group so that we can also get a group picture of them as well?
Y'all are going to need to get real friendly. That's good. 3, 2, 1. One more. 3, 2, 1.
Thank you, guys, and all the work that you do. Thank you so much. Moving on to item number 8, presentation of certificates to members of the Louisiana Area Express Track Club for achievements earned at the 2010 AAU National Junior Olympics. Ms. Griffin, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to also ask Mr. Size to join me at the podium. Mr. President and my colleagues, and for those in attendance tonight, I have a special presentation tonight, and I'm very excited about it. Tonight, we want to acknowledge and celebrate some of our young people from this area and give them certificates for their achievements that was made this summer. And these are members of the Lake Area Express Track Club for the achievements earned at the 2010 AAU National Junior Olympics, which was held in Norfolk, Virginia, during the month of July, from July the 31st through August the 7th, 2010. And I think you'll be excited to hear some of the achievements. Mr. Size, would you have a couple of words to say before we get started, or you want to wait till we finish? And I will ask the parents, if you're here, to come up and accompany your child, as we call her name, because you need to be recognized for your support also. First, we're going to start with Frankie Griffin. Frankie Griffin of the Lake Area Express Track Club for place in first high jump, fourth triathlon, and sixth long jump in the 2010 AAU National Junior Olympics. This is the little lady that came earlier. Her sister won all of the special awards from Hampton Christian, and it looks like she's following in her footsteps. So just go around here, dear, and we're going to take a picture of you.
Congratulations.
God bless you.
Good job.
And then we have Brianna Sorum. Okay, Brianna did the place 13th for the 100-meter dash and 26 200-meter dash also. Come get yours, dear. You want to shake their hands for me, too. And then we have another sister, that's Nikki Griffin. She placed third long jump and 12 200-meter dash. This is terrific that we have such promising and gifted kids from Calcasieu Parish. Then we have Jenny Coutu Marcotte, who did the 100-meter hurdles and 27 200-meter hurdles. Outstanding. Dad, you can stand up next to her. And we have Christopher Tucson, placing 11th in a long jump and in the 2010 National Junior Olympics. And we have, I wrote this name and broke this syllable, name of the syllable. That's Dekina Stewart. Dekina, I played with that name, girl. Young man. I think you were related to, I'm very proud of you. Again, we want to congratulate them for their hard work and the trip they took this summer, represented Calcasieu Parish, Lake Charles, and we're all proud of you. And Mr. Sides would like to say a few words.
Yes, I too would like to say that I'm very proud of the accomplishments that you all did. Competing in the National Junior Olympics means a lot. I know as a parent who kid was involved with that, that takes a lot of time, a lot of money, and at the same time for the kids, it's really, really an exciting experience to have. And I know that I hope that you all cherish that experience and look forward to the hard work and continue doing the hard work that you're doing. God bless.
It was just brought to my attention that this young lady has already received a scholarship, and I'm going to let her tell you about it. Just tell them where did you receive the scholarship from?
The scholarship was from the Department of Navy in Annapolis, Maryland.
Wonderful.
18 years old. She's 18.
So we see Calcasieu Parish, we have a lot of talent here, and I know we're so proud of it. And thank you, my colleagues and Mr. President, for allowing us.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Griffin.
you.
At this time, I would like to call on another one of my colleagues who'd like to make a personal presentation is Mr. Shannon Spell. Please come to the mic.
Thank you, Mr. President, my fellow colleagues, for a point of personal privilege. September has been a month of tragedy in the community of Moss Bluff, but we recently avoided yet another tragedy by the bravery and compassion of a great young man. And if I could at this time ask Mr. Brennan Doge and his family to come up to the podium. Mr. Doge, while at a family function, was quick to notice his 2-year-old cousin at the bottom of a pool. And Mr. Doge quickly got his cousin and pulled him out of the pool, who I believe at the time was drowning, and removed his cousin from the pool and placed him on the side of the pool where his family and responding EMS personnel could tend to his 2-year-old cousin, which I believe is alive and well and doing just fine. And could we have him up here too, please? So this young man, Mr. Doge, a 4th grader at Moss Bluff Elementary School, basically was there in the clutch for his 2-year-old cousin, and thanks to his bravery and compassion, his 2-year-old cousin's going to keep on avoiding meetings and coming to the podium. So we just wanted to recognize this young man for doing something great and brave. And we just wanted to tell you that we are proud of you and that we hope that you continue to be a great citizen. It takes a lot of courage and bravery to think about others before we think about ourselves. And you did a great thing. We're proud of you, and we want to recognize you this evening for being a hero of Calcasieu Parish. So at this time, I would like to present a couple of certificates. First, we have a plaque on behalf of the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury, a certificate of recognition presented by the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury on this day, the 7th day of October, 2010, to Brennan Doge in recognition and honor of his quick thinking, fast response, and heroic action which was instrumental in saving the life of his 2-year-old cousin from what could have been a tragic drowning accident on September 24, 2010. Congratulations to a real hero, Mr. Brennan Dugay, a 4th grade student at Moss Bluff Elementary School. Unfortunately, Senator Mount and Representative Guyman were unable to be here this evening, but we also have certificates on behalf of the Louisiana State Legislature recognizing the heroism of Mr. Dugay, and a certificate of recognition from the Louisiana State Senate also recognizing the heroism of Mr. Dugay. So once again, congratulations. We're proud of you. Keep on doing the great things that you're doing. And we're just glad we have great men like you and heroes in this community at such a young age. So would you like to say a few words? No? It took me a while to get used to it, too. Would his mother like to? Okay. Well, we thank y'all. Appreciate it. Obviously,
Yes.
parents and family are doing a great job. And we just appreciate y'all. And thank you for being a hero, man.
Thank you, Mr. Spell. It's just always good to hear about happy endings. We really.
Go ahead, Chan. One more.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Spell. Moving on to item number 9, receive report from staff regarding wildlife sightings in densely populated areas of Calcasieu Parish. Mr. Beam.
Thank you, Mr. President. This item is following up on a request by several members of the jury to look into the issue a little further of what's probably more commonly called the coyote sightings. We put wildlife on here just to be all-inclusive, but that's really what this is about. And this is as far as the more reportings, if you will, of coyotes in what would be suburban and urban type areas. And so following up on that, earlier this week, we met with several agencies, including Wildlife Fisheries, County Agent, Sheriff's Office, City of Lake Charles, and others, to discuss the issue. This included our staff and Animal Services internally. And it was very enlightening, very helpful. And out of that, we felt like it would be helpful to the full jury to have Mr. John Robinette, who is here with Wildlife Fisheries, very educational to learn about this whole issue of how coyotes exist and frankly the challenges of trying to deal with that in populated areas. But I believe after that it'll be good information for all of us, and then take any questions you may have or comments, and we feel like at a minimum we will be able to have a good coordinated effort that tracks these calls that come to all the agencies, because people will call different agencies, and increase the awareness level. There's information that we collectively can all put out better and target the community so that we can enhance or prevent, I guess, the occurrences of these issues. And Mr. Robinette will also give you a sense of the numbers of these instances, and I think with that he's got a short PowerPoint, and he'll also be able to take any questions. So at this time I would ask John Robinette with State Wildlife and Fisheries Office to go ahead and give his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Beam. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, my name is John Robinette, Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. My office is 1213 North Lake Shore Drive here in Lake Charles. Well, glad to come tonight, be able to talk to you, the police jury, and people in the audience about coyotes. This isn't a problem that is uncommon. It's common throughout the United States. Louisiana, our Department of Wildlife and Fisheries has several animals that we consider outlaw quadrupeds. And it's coyotes, feral hogs, and armadillos. Now, a quadruped is a four-legged animal, and these are the three animals that we consider outlaws. And we do have certain ways you can handle these animals. But Basically, I'm going to talk about coyotes. Coyotes came in about 100 years ago throughout the United States as the wolf populations declined. They took up the niche of the wolf. They're found all over the United States, in every state except Hawaii. They adapted well in urban, rural, and city areas, and it's almost impossible not to find them in any major city in the United States. We also have problems with dogs and what we call coy dogs. People's pets at night become a different animal. They do kill stuff at night. You may not believe it, but we put radio transmitters on some of these animals and found out they do become killers at night. Coy dogs are dogs, animals that have been mixed bred with a coyote. They give us a lot of problems. They're our biggest problems versus the coyote. These animals tend to kill just to kill. Coyotes' normal prey is rabbits and rats. That's what they normally feed on. But coyotes will eat anything. They're kind of thought of as carnivores, but they're actually omnivores. They will eat plant food such as berries, corn, watermelons, believe it or not, is one of their favorite. Garbage, anything they can find in garbage, pet food, small animals, including deer, puppies, and cats. Sorry if this is a little graphic, but coyotes and coy dogs and dogs kill and damage livestock and pet. One way you look at, if it's a coyote, if you look at the cow, you notice it has marks on his nose and ears. Coyotes go for the throat and the head. They do not go for the rear end of an animal. Dogs, as you see, the sheep was killed by dogs. Dogs attack from the rear end. They bring the animal down from the rear. And again, coyotes will eat dogs and cats that are out in somebody's yard. It's just a food item to them. Coyote attacks on humans have occurred, but the attacks are very, very rare. There was some people just last week in, I think, Atlanta. A little kid was attacked. We had an attack here. We know they occur, but it's very hard to predict when these accidents or attacks will occur. Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries has tried different ways. For years, we had employed several trappers across the state to respond to nuisance animals, not just coyotes. It's a very costly program. When budgets got tight, we had to get rid of them. It was costing us over $2,000 to catch one coyote. That's a lot of money to be out there. And now, today, I imagine to be more than that. That was back in the 90s. We dropped our program, and the Agricultural and Forestry Department decided that they would pick up the coyote and beaver trapping program. They found out they had the same problems we did. They had to eliminate that program also. The cost was just too great. So what the department decided to do was start to educate the public and to come up with ways and laws and rules and regulations that individuals could handle their nuisance problems. Coyotes can be shot or trapped year-round on private property. You cannot pelt or put that pelt into commercial commerce. Coyotes may be trapped during trapping season and sold with proper trapping license. This last legislative session, we got the legislators to agree to allow us to have a special season in which coyotes can be shot at night, no permit required from the last day of February to the last day of August. You can just go out, if you have private property, if you got coyote problems, take care of it. The use of poisons and other lethal methods, which there are several types of methods. I'm sure y'all not really interested in them, but there's poisons and there's what we call coyote getters, which are a shotgun shell that blows up in the coyote's face. There are other explosive devices and all. We do not recommend any of these because they are potentially dangerous to humans, pets, and other wildlife. Some states do allow it, but we do not in the state of Louisiana. Shooting coyotes during daylight hours has very little impact on trying to control populations. We're hoping that with night hunting, since coyotes are nocturnal and active only at night, basically, it will help control the populations. We're not going to get rid of them. They're here to stay. These are some of the traps that can be used. The leg hold trap. The one in the middle, which is called a neck snare, this is just a new device that has came out that catches only coyotes and dogs, and it will only choke down to a certain point. A lot of cities are starting to use this because if you catch a dog in it, it won't kill the dog. You can release it and get the dog loose. If you catch a coyote, then you take care of the coyote. Have-a-heart traps, which are the ones at the bottom. You have to have a real strong one, though, because coyotes will tear these traps up. The device you see on the side where it says not recommended, that is a bottle of probably arsenic or something in which the coyote would chew on and eventually kill him. Like I said, we do not recommend it. The Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries does not provide nuisance animal control or removal services. We do permit individual nuisance wildlife control operators to provide these services for a fee. The nuisance operators are permitted to handle most species except deer, bear, migratory birds, and alligators. In many situations, however, calling in a professional is not entirely necessary. The following are steps that individuals or municipalities can take for getting rid of nuisance animals. We need to educate the public. The public needs to be aware that coyotes are present. They're present in this city, they're present in Westlake, they're present in Sulphur, they're present in Alexandria, Lafayette. All cities are having the same problems you're having in this city or this parish. Do not leave pet food, or do not feed coyotes or other wildlife. A lot of people do this, and this is just creating more of a problem for us. Even bird feeders can attract mice and rats, which are the normal prey for coyotes. People don't think about that. At night, rats and mice come out to feed on these seeds, and if you got coyotes in the area, they're coming out to feed on the mice and rats. Don't leave pet food out. This is another problem we see a lot. People leave their pet food outside. Coyotes get used to coming and eating it. Your pet's out there, it's an easy catch for the coyote. Keep trash and garbage in sealed containers. Keep yard or vacant lots clear of debris, undergrowth, stuff like old sheds or anything where a coyote can be concealed. This is a problem. They're denning up and living there. Coyotes that we have in the city limits of Lake Charles are coyotes that were born and raised in the city limits of Lake Charles. They're not stuff that has moved in. Now, we have had some movement of coyotes due to recent hurricanes. They will move up a little bit to get out of the water, and if they find a new niche, they're going to get into that area and stay. Okay. Keep pets on leashes and avoid letting them out at night. Follow the state and parish and city regulations. Use authorized and trained nuisance animal control persons. Contact our office to get a list of these people. I handed y'all out a list of all the nuisance control people that we're now using. Or you can go to our website, wlf.la.gov, and go to nuisance animals, and you will find the same information there. People can hire or develop contracts with nuisance animal control people, or if you want to, the parish or city or whatever can buy good quality traps, have-a-heart traps, or these special neck snares. I also handed y'all out a brochure. We just started writing brochures again in the department. And we thought it was very important to start off with living with coyotes, and it is a problem not only in cities but in rural areas also. Sorry, all I had was a black and white copy. These are being printed right now. Hopefully we'll have them available to the public, and they will be on our website. And with that, I'll take any comments or questions.
And we do have some questions by the jury. Dr. Mackey.
Nocturnally, if you have lights on around your house, does that deter, or does it make them want to come in?
Probably won't deter them.
Also, Mr. Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Did I see that right? For hunting them at night is from February to August?
Yes, sir.
So there's nothing our residents can do right now?
No, sir. Let me back up a little bit. We do have a special permit that you can shoot them outside of that period, if that's what you're asking me. The reason it's February through August, is that's outside the deer season. So we will allow people to shoot them at night outside the deer season. You can't get a permit to shoot them a 7-day period anytime during the year.
So if they have a coyote on their property, I'll give you myself for example. My kids show livestock. I'll have pigs in my barn in the next couple of weeks. I can't protect my animals.
Right now, you can go at night and shoot them, no problem.
Maybe I misunderstood then.
Am I saying it wrong?
Is that because it's
Oh,
his
sorry.
property you took?
Yeah. That's
Mine's gone.
So you can't protect your
Make sure.
property?
No, I can give you a 7-day permit to do that. Because this is deer season, and there was some,
So someone has to go in and get a 7-day permit every 7 days
yes, sir.
to protect their property.
No, let me back up. You can trap and take care of your problem. We are not going to come arrest you for shooting a coyote on your property. I can assure you that. You know, you got to take care of your livestock, take care of your livestock. Legally, we're just saying that you need to have a permit if you're riding around in the woods at night on not around your house.
Out hunting.
Right,
That-
you're actively going out
And that's not
hunting.
what I'm asking for. I'm asking
Right.
for people protecting their dogs, cats, their animals, their kids.
I would protect them.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Landry.
Thank you, Mr. President. So if we're out really deer hunting, we can't use the excuse, oh, we're just killing coyotes.
That's correct.
Yeah, there you go. Unless we got the permit. Of course, if there's a deer in the back of the truck, that'd probably be hard to explain, I would
Yes.
imagine.
You may have a few more questions then.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Of course, the man that got bit lived in my district. It happened 2 blocks from the McNeese Stadium. I mean, it's inside the city limits of Lake Charles. Now, we got some numbers the other day that I don't think the cost were near what we just saw here, and hopefully we can negotiate that. And in this situation, you know, these folks aren't out in the country, so I mean, they're not going to really be able to take this on and handle the problem themselves. So I mean, and every government agency they turn to, everybody kind of, well, you know, we don't do coyotes. That just isn't our thing. So I mean, it comes back to us,
Sure.
and we need to do something. And this isn't the only instance. I think this is the only time that a person has been attacked. But, you know, there's a lot of pets that have gone missing. And this isn't the only time that one has showed up in town. I know there was one there right off of Country Bend Bayou near the college, inside the city limits. So, I mean, I think that we need to be proactive, and exactly what we need to do, I don't know, but somehow the police jury needs to get involved, and we need to sit down and maybe negotiate some type of contract on an as-needed basis with one of these people, or possibly get a bid from these local folks. I noticed on the list, there's only 2 that list Calcasieu as being one of their coverage areas, so you're kind of limited, I think, of who's going to respond to the bid. But, I mean, do you have any other ideas of?
You know, if there was some way to do this, every city in the country would be doing it. It's not just here in Louisiana. It's California's got a major problem, and if there was some way to control these things, we would sure do whatever California or some other state was doing. But there's no real set way to handle these things. I want to mention something about, you said the cost. The reason our cost is so much is because we have to pay for trucks and insurance, and so that's why that cost is so high for us.
Right.
A individual private can probably do it a lot cheaper than a state.
What about a bounty?
No, we're not going to go to a bounty.
Can't do that. Can we do that?
Yeah, you can do it.
Okay,
Sure
we
can.
do it. Of course, could be hard to prove where it came from. Was it
That's
one of
the
ours?
reason
or
we're
did it
not
come
doing it.
from Lafayette, or it might have come from Texas or Mississippi? You wouldn't have any idea. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. Mr. McMillan.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you being here. Of course, coyotes are a big problem, but I want to question on a couple of other things before we kind of get back to coyotes. The coy dogs, I mean, are you seeing a number of attacks by coy dogs? Give us a little more information on that.
It's hard to tell it's really hard to tell what that coy dog or a dog is doing. We just know that they're both there.
Okay.
And we do see some of these coy dogs that look kind of like a coyote but look like a lab. So exactly what they're doing, it's hard to tell.
And other predators, I would kind One of the things I see on the forefront that could be a real problem in the parish, and maybe you could speak on this behalf, is feral hogs. Have there ever been any attacks by feral hogs on pets, animals, kids, anything like that that you know of?
We had an attack about 2 months ago up in Dorita. Grandmother and her granddaughter were going into her house, and a big boar hog attacked them. They managed to make it back to their vehicle, but he tore the vehicle up, and somebody managed to get a gun and kill it. You do have hog problems in Calcasieu Parish, even in Moss Bluff, and probably you'll be seeing them in Lake Charles. What the department did was, of course, put them on the outlaw quadruped list. Could be shot year-round during daylight hours, and you can shoot hogs also at night from February to August. And you can get a permit outside that time for a period to shoot hogs. They are becoming a major problem, just like the coyotes in the United States. They carry a lot of diseases. They're probably going to be worse than the coyotes.
Yeah, so that's coming. Another thing too, on as far as they're pretty prolific on breeding. They breed quickly.
Yes,
don't they?
coyotes. Hogs will breed at least twice a year. She'll be pregnant while she's or get pregnant while she's suckling, so they can multiply quickly.
And one more to reiterate, the numbers in Calcasieu Parish are astounding on actually how many feral hog packs there are throughout Calcasieu Parish, Cameron Parish. It's truly a big problem with hogs.
We had a stumbling block before we introduced this. I don't know if you were aware, there were still parishes in Louisiana or wards within parishes that had open stock laws, which mean you could run hogs on anybody's property. It was the landowner's responsibility to keep the hogs off their property. And we had a hard time getting these laws. Finally, this year, the legislators saw what we were talking about and did away with all parish stock laws. So now there is no stock law anywhere in the state of Louisiana. So if it's running wild, a hog, it's feral, and it's fair game to be taken.
The next one I want to kind of cover, and we have a lot of problems with our gravity drainage districts, is beavers. And the number of beavers in Calcasieu Parish causing a problem with impeding the drainage. And what are you seeing with that, John?
Again, beavers are also put on this this list. I should have put that on my opening slide. I forgot about beavers. Beavers can also be shot from February to August, and we also will give a special permit to hunt them at night. Beavers are one of those that you can tear a dam out and they'll be back the next day. They cause a lot of problems, I know, within the city or within the parish, drainage, and their pelts aren't worth anything, so the fur market will not, nobody's going to trap them to try to get rid of them. So that's another animal that will cause y'all concerns in the future.
And then the last one, the armadillos. I know it's not a threat to humans, but a lot of diseases?
Not that many. Okay. No. They are known to carry leprosy, but I wouldn't worry about it.
All right. Just a nuisance, basically.
Just a nuisance. Yeah.
So in kind of covering all 5 of those different variety of predators that we have here in Calcasieu Parish, I got to absolutely agree with Chris. It's time we as a parish step up and do something. If the Wildlife and Fisheries doesn't have the money to do something, we as Calcasieu Parish need to protect our citizens of the parish. This problem's not going to go away. It's a situation that we need to address it. And when you got armadillos, beavers, coyotes, coy dogs, and feral hogs running loose in the parish that are a nuisance and a danger to our citizens, we need to look at what we can do. And I don't know if we need to study this issue, if we need to handle it through animal services, that we hire a predator hunter, that when he's not hunting predators, he can work with our animal services. But I think this is a definite niche market that we have to tend to make sure we have somebody that when our constituents call us as police jurors, we can respond and get them out there and get them hunted and try to eliminate, as we encroach on their habitat, that we as citizens can work with that, so we don't run into a situation that people are going to start getting hurt, and pets and animals are going to get hurt. With saying that, absolutely, the state's not going to. They're not going to handle this matter. It's going to be something that we're going to have to handle locally, is what you're telling me.
Well, what we would do, Corey LeGlue, who's the biologist, she's over 9 parishes, which includes Lafayette, the city of Lafayette. It's kind of hard for her to be running around catching coyotes and beavers and whatever. That's our problem. You've got an area that sized that you're over. Now, what we will do, if something is in a position where we can come catch it, dart it, or get it, we'll be glad to come get it. But we are not going to go out searching for it. It's too time consuming for us to do that. But if somebody has a coyote in their backyard, they got it fenced up or caged up, we don't have a problem going and taking care of that coyote, or not an armadillo. We're not going to fool with armadillos, but coyotes, fine. We'll be glad, or an alligator. We'll be glad to handle that. But again, we are not going to go and say, well, I think I got a coyote in my yard and I need somebody to come out and look for it. We're not going to get into that.
So without putting words in your mouth, if we had a predator hunter in Calcasieu Parish, the state wildlife and fisheries would work with us on doing everything it can to help help solve the predator problem.
Sure will.
And, we need to look at that and what we might do on that. With that being said, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Mr. Landry.
We'll just make it crystal clear. Will y'all help us pay for it? Hey, we had to ask.
Yeah.
Make sure you
Good
didn't
question.
you didn't get right down to that. We just want to make sure. I assumed that it was no, but I would make a motion that to direct the staff within the next, come back to us in 30 days with a plan of exactly what we're going to do, and hopefully have a recommendation of who we're going to hire.
Thank you, Mr.
I'd second that.
Thank you. We have a motion second. First of all, let's get back to, we have another person from the audience that would like to speak on this matter. It's Mr. Kurt Daigle here. Please come to the mic and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Kurt Daigle. I live at 722 DeSoto Street in Lake Charles. My fence line it borders the Petro Bowl. I'd like to tell you a little bit what happened to my neighbor, Mr. Jimmy Evans. Last week, he was a little bit before daylight, and this, by the way, this is the second time his pets have been attacked. About a year and a half ago, he took a little terrier out, and coyote grabbed it by the neck, commenced to take it off and dropped it. The dog got away, and they took it to the vet. It lived. Well, I think it was last Wednesday. It was just beginning to be daylight, and he put it's a little dachshund, weighs about 15 pounds, and the coyote happened to be waiting. I guess he was going to eat it for breakfast. He latched onto the dachshund, took off running. Mr. Evans lives at the end of the street. I live next to him, and then there's a dead end with a big field. Well, the coyote started heading for the field, and Mr. Evans began to run to get his dog. And when he got up to the coyote, he dropped the dog and then turned on him and bit Mr. Evans on both of his hands, who, by the way, had to go to the hospital to get shots. And while I'm saying that, I need to emphasize this. It seems like whenever a person or anybody gets bit by a coyote or a wild animal, it needs to be a law or rule that facility notifies the proper personnel that there's a problem. St. Patrick's did not notify anybody of the bite or the attack by the coyote. And the reason I say this, if they have rabies, there needs to be an antidote or shots for those people to take. And that may be something the parish may want to check into. I'm a walker, and I get up as early as 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, I passed coyotes sitting right there on the curb staring at me. Didn't bother me. Just watched me as I walked back and forth. There's a neighbor on Orleans at the very east side of the subdivision. It borders a field. One of the residents had his dog chained up. Well, he got up and found his dog in pieces because the dog couldn't defend himself being on a chain. And I disagree that if you're going to have pets, you don't want to leave them where they're defenseless. If they're chained up, they have no opportunity, and they're probably not going to live. I personally think that this wasn't a coyote that attacked Mr. Evans. I believe it was a coy dog. It looked exactly like a dog. And I don't think coyotes is going to strike humans as quick as a coy dog will. And we talked to the mayor. The mayor contacted me, and he said, well, you can hire a trapper. Well, duh, give me the $220 per coyote or whatever, and we'll be glad to do that. And my issue and the issues of the citizens of the city and the parish is that's why we're paying taxes for, is if we have a problem, that can be taken care of. And I honestly don't believe the state's going to do anything. It'll either be up to the city or the parish. In my area, I stand to be corrected, but I believe that we're on the border of the parish-city line. Where is it, Mr. Landry? Is it right there by Cowboys?
It's right about there, or Petro Point.
Yeah.
Petro
So,
Point,
you're on the border of the city and the parish line, and to say who's supposed to take care of it, well, it's a good question. But I have a little Yorkie, and I have grandchildren, and I love my little Yorkie as much as I love my grandchildren. And, I never knew that could be, but it's reality. And I'm asking you, as parish leaders, y'all do a fine job, and we thank you for that fine job. But when animals start to attack the residents, it's time to take action, because it could be your children, your grandchildren. It could be you. This dog that attacked Mr. Evans, it looked like it was starved. And if an animal was hungry enough, he could turn on an adult. And we have a lot of walkers in our area, and it's really concerning because a lot of them walk their pets. And I want to add that after this coyote dog or whatever dropped this dog, he left and went around the block, and we heard another dog screaming. So our neighborhood has a real problem with coyotes, and I don't like to ruffle feathers, and I don't like to make a big issue out of something that's not a big issue, but this is a serious, serious problem. And I would like to make a suggestion. The wildlife fisheries said they won't trap them. How about if the citizens are given the opportunity to be able to get traps and set them? Because they're in our neighborhood on a regular basis, anywhere from 9 o'clock at night till 6 o'clock in the morning. So that may be something that we could do too. I'm not going to go hunting for coyote, but I can tell you, despite what the city has told us, if you fire a gun in the city limits, and I was told this by the city police, if you fire a gun in the city, you're going to be arrested. Well, all I can say is they better get their handcuffs, and I may call them before, but I have an obligation, just like you do, to protect our family and protect the ones that we love. And so we're asking you, as leaders of our parish, to step up and to do something to alleviate this problem.
Thank you, Mr. Daigle. We appreciate it. At this time, I have a couple more comments by the jurors. And if Mr. John, if you'd please come up, I'm pretty sure a lot of those questions are going to pertain to you. Let me call on Mr. Landry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a point of clarification. Mayor Roach contacted me, as well as a couple of city council members, and they both are all expressed their willingness to help and to kind of do this as a joint venture. So I'm sure that'll be worked out in the plan. And also, as part of my motion, we would want to include these gravity drainage districts to take care of the beaver problem as well, to where they can, I'm sure that the likely point of contact is going to be through animal control. Obviously they'll be billed for the cost, but at least they have someone that they can call that's going to take care of the problem. So I would make that as part of the motion, that would be included in the plan.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. This time I call on Mr. Scott.
Yeah, I'm going to start with as far as the motion that was made. Now, I understand this motion. This is to look into hiring someone on a case-by-case situation, not on just all the time pay. Is that correct, Mr. Landry?
The motion is for the staff to come back with a recommendation, and if if it's less expensive to hire someone, then I'm sure we would be all for that. But I would think that it would just be on a case-by-case.
All right, and the gentleman just spoke. He talked a little bit about traps, and I'm sure Ms. Rita and them, I know we already have traps for dogs and certain things like that, so that's definitely an avenue that we can pursue to see if there's those kind of traps that we can provide with our deposits, all those good things. And yeah, we would be able to, in the city limits, look at cooperative endeavors between the parish and the city to take care of some of this, to help with some of that cost. Mr. McGuire, isn't there already a law in place that if somebody goes somewhere with a dog bite or a bite, that someone is to be notified? I got bit by my own dog many years ago, and the clinic I went to said we're required by law to report this, and I was like, well, I'm leaving. So I didn't let him do nothing to me. So,
I can't cite you the statute, but that was my understanding too. I could look and see, but it was my understanding that there was a reporting requirement for possible rabies.
all right.
He's saying in the back, yeah. David Markendale saying yes.
All right.
I thought that there was already.
Or maybe they just didn't want to see me. I don't know. All right, now a couple questions, Mr. John. Just on the, let's play Mythbusters for a few minutes. You know, you hear people talk about, well, you put a donkey out in your pasture. Does a donkey keep coyotes out of people's fields?
Sure.
How about hanging a dead coyote on a fence?
No.
Don't work? So no more coyotes hanging on a fence. How hard are they to hunt at night? I mean, is a coyote hard to hunt? I mean...
Yeah, well, it depends on the population, of course. If you only have a small population, they're going to be extremely hard to hunt. If it's a high population, you'll probably do a little bit better. But they're more active at night, so you're more apt to see them at night.
All right, which goes into my next question is, do they have an average size pack or group that they run in? I mean, in a certain area, and they're territorial, so...
They're somewhat territorial, yes, and the pack size varies. It all depends on the food source that they have. If they're in good shape, they'll have more pups, and more pups means more pups. So to reduce the number, that's what I was saying. You're not going to ever get rid of all of them. We had talked about this in our meeting. One of the problems that you're dealing with wildlife, as you reduce populations, there's enough food there to carry the remaining populations, and they want to move up to their carrying capacity. So it's kind of a catch-22. As you remove more of them, you may produce more of them because food is more available to them. That's in any wildlife population.
And on that hunting issue, are there any kind of electronic calls or baiting processes that can be used in this?
Yeah. Matter of fact, as far as nighttime, we're allowing any kind of infrared spot, any way you can take them is going to be legal.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Mr. Brink.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Daigle, I just want to tell you thank you for your comments tonight. I'm aware of Mr. Evans' hand, getting bitten by a coyote. But I want to see if it's okay, Mr. President, if I have Rita come up to the mic and just kind of give us a protocol of what would actually be the process if somebody did get bit, what to go through. Because I know Mr. Evans, when he got bit, he and his wife didn't know exactly what to do or where to go or who to call. So if you could just, so the public that are watching this on the government channel.
Well, Ms. Reed, please state your position here with the parish.
Director of Animal Services. There is a law and there is a protocol that when a dog has bitten or any animal has bitten an individual, we are supposed to get a phone call. And it was interesting that we didn't get a phone call on this particular issue. It sounds like we need to resubmit letters to some of the medical agencies or all of them and remind them that there is an obligation to let us know, so we could have tried to at least capture the coyote, and maybe he wouldn't have to go through the pre-rabies testing.
Rita, should they have called you first?
First things get to the hospital, and the hospital's supposed to tell them to call us.
Okay, call animal control. Okay.
Right.
Okay, you want to finish? I mean, would they get to the hospital? Is the hospital supposed to, or do they have a vaccine for that? Or are they supposed to give it?
They do. It's a post-rabies, after you've been bitten.
And that's only at one hospital, or everybody has it?
Everybody, or they share, if one hospital doesn't have it, I'm sure they can borrow it from another hospital, but we do have it in the state.
Okay. And what else should somebody know if they got bit, what they should do?
Well, one thing that I don't think's been brought up tonight, coyotes associate people with food, and we ask people and we tell people when they call, do not feed the coyotes. Well, it sounds like that you're actually feeding them literally, but it's not necessarily literally, it's indirectly. Leaving trash out overnight that has no container on the top, leaving out, of course, the leftover pet food. Small dogs and cats unattended are seen as food. And like you said, the bird feeders, they like the seed, but they also like the rodents that come to the seed. We ask that they secure compost piles and cover barbecue grills. So those are some indirect feedings that people don't actually realize they're doing.
All right, thank you, Rita. Mr. President,
Go ahead.
May. John, the neck snare trap, is that something that,
Ms. Rita, if you would stay up, because there's a couple more questions that some of the jurors have. We appreciate it. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr.
the
John.
neck snare trap, is that something that I can buy?
Yes.
And set it in my yard?
Yes.
Okay. I catch the animal, then what? Call animal services?
Call animal services.
Okay. Or call
Or
wildlife.
you could
fisheries.
call us.
Okay.
As mentioned, we're going to try to network a little bit better on these calls, and
Where can you buy the neck snare trap? Would you say that would be the safest trap to use if you're going to use a trap
Yes.
to try to catch them?
well, the have-a-heart trap is better because the animal gets in there and you can actually handle the animal a lot better. The neck trap, even a dog, you can risk getting bit trying to get him out of it if he's
Right, but you
upset.
said that it won't kill them.
It won't kill him. No.
Okay.
But these are you can just go online and just
Okay,
look
so,
up.
So
that-
anybody can buy one?
Anybody can
And
buy
it's not against the law to use
No,
it?
sir.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Brain. Mr. Stelly.
Yeah, Mr. Robinette, I hope that you don't take what I'm fixing to say wrong, but we're asking a department in our parish that's not funded by any tax of any sort, who's already spending tons of money on domestic animals, and what I would like to see in Mr. Landry's motion is that we also talk to our local state delegation to see about the possibilities of helping fund this thing. Since it's not only a parish-wide problem, it's a statewide problem, and I find it hard to believe that an entire department that we have in wildlife and fisheries do not have some type of funds to help with this thing. And I know you're not the final decision, and I'm not throwing stones at you in any way, but I do feel that that our local state delegation needs to be included in this study with our staff. I see no reason why they should be left out of this thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stelly. Hold on just a minute, Mr. Miller. I'm going to call now Parish Administrator, Mr. Beam.
I know there's other comments. Let me just try to interject a minute. We met this week with the intent of continuing these meetings, and the right agencies are at the table. We felt like it was very helpful what Mr. Robinette presented, so we wanted to go ahead while this is a fresh, fairly media intense issue to go ahead and report to you. But we have had and continue to have every intent to keep meeting and come to you with that, and we certainly can do that within 30 days with a plan, and it is designed to look at all the alternatives. One thing that's clear is there is no one answer to this. Just so we don't go too far down that road, I hear references of if we do it or this. This has actually been tried as far as wildlife and fisheries. It's not so much a matter of there's just no money. If we had a person, the problem would go away. It is just something you're not going to eradicate. That doesn't mean we don't treat it. It means you could spend a lot more money and still have same results. What we have found is that we can and will communicate better as agencies that are all involved. If we get a call, and I'll let Alan or Rita address this, we're already, and this goes back to 2008 and before, we've been taking those calls. Wildlife and Fishery takes those calls. It's really a matter of educating better. The alternatives like traps would be better, let people know. There's different ways. We may have targeted times when we need to hire a private individual who can legally track them, but it is not a matter of if we just went out and hired somebody because the state doesn't do it anymore that the problem would go away. I can't tell you what will be in the recommendation, but that is not going to be an outcome simply because that's not going to solve the problem. What comes of that, though, we obviously recognize that there's a lot more wildlife issues. Mr. McMillan brought up the hogs and others. And it's a matter of working together, and you do have to tread carefully. I mean, if the state is going to reduce services in one area, you've got to make decisions how much you want to go into that, and we want to lay out some options for you. But it will cost depending on how much you want to try to do, because I think beavers were mentioned, and hogs, and coyotes, and coy dogs, and this is a major issue to try to take on as far as any one agency, whether it's us, the city, the state. And I just would suggest as we go forward that we just tread carefully on what is committed to that, because we need to just act jointly on this and come back to you with some ideas and build on that. I think there's a lot we can do that without a lot of cost that will help a good deal. Rita mentioned it, Mr. Robinette mentioned some, but we'll come back to you with our best recommendations on going forward with levels of services and what the corresponding cost would be and probable outcomes.
Thank you, Mr. Beam. Mr. Stelly.
The traps that you're talking about, Brian and Mr. Robinette, are these traps available to the public by the state? Does the state have some that they put a deposit on, or is that something that as individuals are going to have to go out and spend $250 to buy?
The Department of Wildlife and Fisheries at one time did have traps, and to be honest with you, the people that we gave them to, they come back, run over, tore up, useless. It became, again, a financial problem where you can't keep buying these $100, $150 traps and people destroy them or you never get them back again. So we had to stop that program also. I'd like to say there was and we mentioned it, there's no good answer to this.
When your guys go out at night to try to catch poachers, are they not looking for coyotes?
No, well, I don't think they're in the city limits. I mean to be rude.
City limits. I can hear them on my back porch.
Well,
and I'm just talking about when they go out.
There's a problem that we cannot discharge. Our enforcement officers have to have a reason to discharge their firearms, just like a state trooper or anybody else.
So because there's such a problem with these things, as we've all been recognized tonight, that there is a serious problem, is there not a way that the state can come up with a program for their enforcement officers that if they encounter coyotes at night while they're doing their job, that they can't shoot coyotes and
I'm sure they could, but I don't speak for enforcement division.
Well,
I'm just saying.
I'm understanding. I'm not trying to badger you. But they're out there, they're armed, and they're trained, and they're probably better shots than 90% of the people who are going to shoot at night, which I could see could become a problem. But
let me answer.
In my opinion, while they're out there, I think that they should that should be part of their job.
We got a complaint at the airport here that there were coyotes on the runway. We spent several nights running up and down that runway and never saw a coyote. You never know when you're going to see one. And I kind of agree with you. If an agent or somebody, if I had a gun at night and had the opportunity to shoot one, yeah, I'm going to kill it. There shouldn't be a problem with that. So, but are we going to control them that way? No.
I guess we've made it clear that then there's really no way to control them.
It's going to be difficult.
So it's just one case at a time. So
it's going to be difficult.
If your agent is out there doing his job, then I don't see any reason why that should not be part of his job and to shoot the animal.
I'll check with enforcement. I don't work with that side, but I'll check with them and see what they do. Let you know.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Stelly. Mr. McMillan.
Rita, if I could get you to come to the microphone just a second. I guess really, I see this as a bigger problem, and that we need somebody full time. If and not trying to put you too much on the spot yet, because I know we're going to look at this over a time period. The number of calls that you may get on these type 4 or 5, anything from the coy dogs to the coyotes? How's the numbers look, and what are you seeing on that?
It's going to be a guesstimate that I'm giving you, but we're looking at, thus far this year, about 50.
Okay. If we had a full-time person, which I would like to see that happen, not on a case-by-case basis, somebody that was there all the time, are there other duties you could probably get this guy to do when he wasn't doing predator hunting?
Yes, in fact, all the raccoon calls, the armadillo calls, the multitude of wildlife calls that we get, that could be put into the same job description.
Yeah, because I see us as being in a service industry for our parish, and this is a service that I would like to see you provide through animal service, to have this person there full-time, that we could take care of these problems. So I'm directing staff, or hoping that staff will look into this and make sure that we're not eliminating just on case-by-case. I want to see what it would cost to put a full-time person on. I'm thinking maybe $50,000, $60,000, and in the realm of our budget, that's not really that much money to for a year-round person to do a job like this. You could give us those estimates, but that's just kind of what I'm thinking on that behalf. Any comments on that?
No, it's certainly an idea that we can look into and check on. We can certainly keep them busy if we have the staff. But I do want to point out that the dog traps we have now are not strong enough to hold coyotes, so we would have to get a whole set of hardware, if you will.
Yeah, there'd have to be equipment as well as a truck for this person, things
That's
like
correct.
that we'd have to look into. But the gravity drainage districts in this area and the other cities in Calcasieu Parish could joint service with us on this to make this happen. I think we all know it's a problem. As John said earlier, every city in this parish has this problem. So that I'd also like to look at what can we do on dividing on some of this out, with that being said. And Mr. Landry, I was asked by staff if we could move it back to the November 23rd Public Works Night for the report, if that would be okay and part of your motion. I got a note from staff, so I would ask you if you'd have any problems with that.
November 23rd?
November 23rd, Public Works Night.
What's the date today?
Today is October 7th.
I guess so.
Okay.
I mean, if it's going to come back and not be complete in 30 days, then I wouldn't want that if they need that much time.
Well, it's just, it's a matter of,
It's going, is that the committee night?
it's one more week, and
Is that
that's
what you
actually
said?
earlier than normal
Oh, yeah.
because of
Sure.
Thanksgiving.
Sure.
So it's just because it's a committee night, that'd be a good night to go through that report, is all.
So that was indeed y'all's idea, not Mr. McMillan's?
Yeah,
I'm all for it. No problem.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Mr. Porter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I can certainly understand Mr. McMillan's position on this, how that could be a viable solution to it, but I definitely would urge that we look at this very hard. We just went through a year-long ordeal with the public, helping them understand our finances, and that we heard clearly that they don't want a bigger government. They want a smaller government. This is definitely a department that is funded out of our general fund, which is where we're having to make some pretty serious cuts at the moment. So I would urge some caution in that manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Mr. Spell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to add to Mr. Farnham's comments, a question for Brian. Brian, are we currently under a hiring freeze?
Mostly, and I say that because we've hired where we've really had what is an essential position that we feel like we have to fill, and that depends on the department and case by case. But we are still under that directive of not filling vacated positions is really what it is defined as. However, you know, jury, after we give a report and recommendations, it's your call as to what level of services. If you go back, I know later in the meeting, Mr. Miller is going to cover, and Ms. Griffin, the insurance issue. There's things that we need to revisit from time to time, and if a policy of yours is to change, to do something a little different than we did years ago, that's certainly something you need to look at. It's just to be aware that with those issues that are newer, if you will, than what we did 20 years ago, it's a level of service and level of funding question, and that's something you just have to work through, and we'll give you our best alternatives. And that would include up to and including hiring somebody for that and let y'all decide. So, but that's the long way of answering yes, we're still not filling vacated positions.
I guess the reason for the question was I believe that decision to have the quasi-hiring freeze, I believe that was a good decision. I think that extended faith to the people of the parish that we're serious about being efficient at what we do. So I guess my only concern is I'd just like to make sure that we evaluate all the facts before we make a decision, because I just want to make sure that we continue to demonstrate good faith towards the people paying the bills. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Speld. Mr. Brain.
Thank you, President Guidry. Two quick questions. And first one, Rita, do we not have anybody in-house already that could possibly train, and y'all can train or get trained to do this job?
We are definitely not trained for the coyote business. We don't have the equipment.
Do we have the manpower?
We do not have the manpower at present.
Okay. Second question goes back to my first question that I had with you. The response time, like this instance that happened with Mr. Evans, he calls you. How quick could you get there to get the coyote? What would be the normal response time?
Well, the problem with it is we could go straight out, but actually trying to find the right coyote and find the coyote in general would be where I'm not certain how long it would take.
I understand that. So, but they called you at 5:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Would you have an agent like ready to go right then?
We could have.
Okay. What about if it was at night?
We have 24-hour service.
Okay. But the response time is?
It's pretty good, usually.
Okay.
It's pretty
I was
good.
asked that question by some of my constituents, so that's why I wanted to bring that up, because they, you hear sometimes it took them 2 hours to get here.
Right.
So I just wanted to make sure that if a situation like that with a coyote, y'all could get there quicker.
With the proper staff and training, we could.
Okay. I sure wish there was somebody in-house that we could use to train. But thank you, Rita. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Beam.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to be careful of this, because how I say this, animal services is Ms. Kavanaugh said, 24 hours. One of the challenges we have, though, is providing basic services for the most important thing. And every day there are calls that come in that they cannot get to in what a lot of people, frankly, expect would be the time. And it's not an ambulance service in that sense. What it is they prioritize all the calls. Obviously, threat to human life is first and foremost. But we have, and I say we, Rita can give examples. Somebody may call with a dead squirrel out near the yard, and can you come pick it up? And they might expect in a couple hours somebody's going to swing by. We have, I don't know how many officers, Rita, handling the whole parish as far as animal control officers out in the parish on the road handling these. Or Alan?
We have 9 full-time officers hired at this time. Trying to cover 24 hours, 7 days a week. On an average day, I would tell you have 4 to 5 on a good day, and you spread that over the parish, the city limits. I think perhaps, I guess the response time will be critical in what people expect in this type of service. One officer doing this kind of work may be great if we have one call, but it won't. I think we're going to have to really challenge ourselves to limit the expectation on what we're going to be able to do in this coyote or any wildlife situation with one officer. And I think there's just cause for taking a little time to put a good solution to this problem, if I may.
Go ahead, Mr.
Yep. Mr. Beam, I just wanted to let you know that I'm speaking mainly just on coyote, because I know that, a dog.
I know
in the
you
road.
weren't referring to my example.
Yeah.
We just get I think a lot of people don't realize that the kinds of calls that come in that aren't near that level.
I can imagine.
And y'all get them, obviously. And if it's something of that nature that's very serious, that they put that at the top.
Yes.
But
That's what I wanted to know.
expectations are very high in the public on what would be maybe considered more routine that's not like that. I just wanted to point that out while you had brought up the issue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hessen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Did I understand you right? The traps needed for coyotes are about $150?
I would assume.
$150, $200?
I haven't bought any lately, so it would be.
Okay.
Can you come up and where you buying?
That's right now. Our citizens need immediate help. I mean, we've got a definite problem where this gentleman lives. We also have a problem over off of Elliott. A couple of dogs were taken there, and the people witnessed it. If we bought the traps, I mean, we're talking about a very minor investment. We can require that they put a deposit down. Will Wildlife and Fisheries come out when something is trapped? Because obviously our staff can't deal with it after it's been trapped.
The only person you got to do it is one person for 9 parishes. That's the problem that we run into. Corey has other responsibilities. She could be anywhere in those 9 parishes or anywhere in the state, and y'all have a coyote trap. It may take us days to get to it. We're less able to respond than your local people would be able to. I mean, we'd be glad to if we're in the house, but I'm not going to make it a commitment that if they catch a cow, we're going to come take care of it.
Well, we still got the situation of being in the city limits. I was going to say if the resident went out and shot it and just emptied the trap, that would solve the problem.
That's up to the city, and it's not our call.
Are any of our officers armed?
No, sir.
Animal control?
No, sir.
Well, I think we should provide some immediate help to them. Tranquilize them, something. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Mr. Size.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. It's obviously that we're not going to work this out tonight, and I think that we need to move on with Mr. Landry's motion, and let the staff and do this study on what we need to do, because there's a lot of things, there's a lot of open questions out there, and I don't think we're going to work that tonight. So that's what I would say that we call on the question.
I'd like to make one comment. He made the comment about tranquilize them. I'm sure the animal control people probably agree. Just because you have a tranquilizer gun and you shoot a coyote doesn't mean you're going to find it. They don't go down immediately.
It's trapped. I'm just talking about killing it after
Oh,
it's
okay.
trapped.
I thought you were talking about us just going out and shooting them. Any animal that you shoot with a tranquilizer runs. And a coyote, we'd never find it. So it would just be a matter of him sleeping for a while and he's back to business if he's not in a trap. So.
Okay.
Mr. Stelly.
I just want to make a comment that I don't think we need to put our employees in harm's way in any way dealing with coyotes or feral hogs or whatever they're called, because they're not trained for that, period. They're not equipped, they're not trained, and I don't think we should put them in that situation whatsoever. I think that's the state's problem, not the local problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
I'd like to respond a little bit. I'm kind of hesitant what I'm fixing to say, but I got to say it. The Department of Wildlife and Fisheries is not funded by the state of Louisiana. We get no general dollars, no money at all from the state of Louisiana. We get no money from the city. We get no money from the parish. All our money is derived from hunting and fishing. And it's kind of hard for us to spend money, the money that we're talking about we're going to have to spend, to try to handle a problem that we know we're going to have very, very, very big problems handling it.
Isn't there a United States Department of Wildlife and Fisheries?
Yes, sir, but that's another problem.
Where does that money come from?
All their money comes from federal funds, from the sale of
Federal
license.
funds.
Yeah, but it's hunting. It's all derived from hunting and fishing. My job is 75% funded by the federal government. But the federal government says, I won't give you that money to eradicate coyotes. That is not a federal problem.
What does a parish do that has no money? What do they do? There's parishes out there that are not as fortunate as we are. What do they do?
I have no idea.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stelly. Mr. Scott.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Just real quick, you know, when we were elected to be informed and make decisions. And, you know, staff brings recommendations. They get a lot of information for us. But right here is where we do a lot of learning. This is where questions are asked. So, you know, it's on the spot. And this is where I do a lot of learning. I don't just have to read through some things. So I appreciate the time we spend on something. You know, one man was bit. He considers this, and his neighbors consider this the big deal of the day. So I would just like to, you know, I appreciate the time we spend on every issue that is forefront to our constituents. On the second thing, and just for Miss Rita and Mr. Allen's sake, you know, we just sat through a 3-hour class with the City of Lake Charles, me and Mr. Landry, and, you know, I kind of know the ins and outs now of animal services. They gave us stats, they gave us how it works, why it works, how much money's made, so if anybody in here would be willing to sit in through something like that, I think it would be very beneficial for the jurors who could sit with Miss Rita and them to, you know, it just gives you a lot more information that you would be able to use to help your constituents in these situations. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. And Mr. John and Ms. Rita, we want to just thank you guys for coming out tonight and giving us the information that you guys gave us that can hopefully help us to bring back to our constituents and maybe pass it on. And we just want to say to you all as a jury and a governing body, thank you for coming out tonight.
Welcome.
Ms.
And we'll be happy to help with you any way we can.
We do appreciate it. Ms. Griffin.
Mr. President, I would like to make a recommendation that you form a committee, since so many jurors have concerns with this issue, to work along with them or be a part of whatever they bring back to us, so that we could get input from the elected officials and staff. And I would like to put that in a recommendation. You choose whoever you want, but we need to have a committee that should work on this also.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to receive report.
I'd like to see that committee named tonight, sir.
We have a motion on Mr. Landry. We have a second. Did we get a second on Mr. Landry? We have a second on Mr. McMillan. Any discussion? Any objection? So moved. And also, I'd like.
My
Go ahead, Ms.
motion,
Griffin.
Did I get Mr. President?
I would second that.
I would second that.
Okay.
We have a motion by Mr. Fordham and a second by Mr. Size to form a committee.
That's up to him. Now, Mr. President, may I ask you to appoint that committee tonight so we would know where we're going before we leave this place?
I would ask that Mr. Brame, Mr. Hassan, Mr. Landry.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt. I would just suggest whoever you put, you might go ahead and include Mr. Landry and Mr. Scott. They are already liaisons. I didn't know if you knew. Exactly.
How many of that committee needs to be made up? 7?
No, it could however many you want, actually.
I would ask that Mr.
Does
Brame,
it need to
Mr.
be
Hassan,
referred to as a
Mr.
liaison
Landry,
group?
Mr. McMillan, Mr. Stelly,
Then a committee?
and Mr. Scott.
It could just be an ad
Get
hoc
that, Ms.
group
Kathy?
for
Ad hoc.
wildlife. You don't have to.
Brame, Hassan, Landry, McMillan, Stelly, and Scott. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I think that it is.
Thank you.
Is that 7, Miss Kathy?
That's 6.
Did you get Mr. Tony Stelly?
Yes, sir. I've got 6. Brame, Hassan.
Mr. Size.
Size. Okay, that's the one I was missing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. At this time, I would entertain a motion to receive report.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Stelly and a second by Mr. Size. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 9 passes. Item number 10, consideration approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the police jury dated September 2nd, 2010. I have a motion by Mr. Fordham and a second by Mr. Scott. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 10 passes. Item number 11.
Move on to
Consideration
11, all
approval of the
bullets.
Public Works Committee report dated September 30th, 2010. I have a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Spell. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 11 passes. Let me just read those 2 bullets into the record, please. 11.1, received presentation by the Honorable Kenny Stinson, Mayor of Vinton, on the upcoming Vinton Centennial Celebration Festival to be held Saturday, October 9th, 2010. 11.2, recommended that the Calcasieu Parish Project number 2009-09 Safety Improvements and Erosion Control of various roads in Calcasieu Parish, Louisiana, be accepted as substantially complete. I had a motion and a second on that item with both bullets passed. Item number 12, consideration and approval of the Agenda Committee report dated September 30th, 2010. I have a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Scott. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 12 passes. Item number 13, consideration and approval of the Budget Committee report dated October 7th, 2010. Mr. McMillan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Budget Committee met. All items were passed unanimously. We had 5 items that we talked about at the Budget Committee. I'll read the items and I'll make a recommendation on behalf of the Budget Committee. The first one was consideration and recommendation in reference to approving a request and grant funding amount of $1,700. Waterworks District 1 of Ward 1, and this is a reallocation on that item. Consideration of making a recommendation with reference to approving a request and grant funding amount of $200,000 for wastewater treatment rehabilitation for project in Sewer District 11 of Ward 3. Consideration of recommendation of reference of grant of $5,000 Southwest Louisiana 2010 Toys for Tots. This is from District 13. It's for the Sulphur Housing Project Christmas Giving Program. And then we had a recommendation of $55,000 for the Benton Harbor and Terminal District for dredging project in Benton Navigational Canal. Funding is being allocated as followed: $50,000 from parish-wide allocation of gaming funds and $5,000 allocated from Ward 7 gaming funds. And then we had a recommendation with reference to approving a request of funding amount of $35,000 from the Managing Board of the Southland Field for the purpose of matching a state grant to construct 6 T-hangars at the airport. The committee recommended that all these items pass unanimously. I do make a motion that we pass these items, Mr. President.
I have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Dr. Mackey. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 13 passes. Item number 14, consideration approval of the General Insurance Committee report dated October 7, 2010. Ms. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the jury, the General Insurance Committee met earlier today, and these are the recommendations that we bring to you. The first one was a request to request authority to contract with Benefit Management Services to serve as the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury 2011 Health Plan third-party administrator. The second request is to request authority to contract with Louisiana Companies for Health and Safety Counseling Services for 2011 for a $32,000 annual fee. The third was to request authority to contract with Arthur Gallagher Risk Management Services, Inc., to serve as our broker for 2011 for the amount of $7,820 annual fee, and that is subject to approval by the State of Louisiana Insurance Commissioner. The fourth request is to authorize authority to contract with the Louisiana companies to serve as our broker for the placement of the 211 lines of coverage for a $24,180 annual fee. And this also is subject to approval by Louisiana State Insurance Commission. Now, the General Insurance Committee all voted unanimous to approve this and bring to you. I recommend approval for the recommendations.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Griffin and a second by Mr. Landry. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 14 passes. Item number 15, consideration of ratifying the issuance and execution by the President of the Police
Move
Jury
on 15.
of a notice
Second.
of restriction due to existing drought conditions signed on Wednesday, September 29, 2010, ordering and imposing restrictions on any outdoor burning activities and empowering parish fire departments to extinguish all fires that are in direct violation of said notice. I have a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. McMillan. Is there any discussion? We do have discussion. Mr. McMillan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I did get a call from a constituent in the Mossville area that was asking about trash can burning. And I called OEP and talked to them, and they said no burning of any sorts because these ambers can start a fire, and actually even kind of warned against when mowing grass, hitting rocks, any kind of sparks, anything like that. So basically, in visiting with Dick and them, we really need to be on the forefront of making sure that people understand that this is a real time that we could have some major fires. I think, Dick, would you like to say anything on any of that behalf? I see you kind of coming up, but just, I just basically, I just wanted to reiterate that we are in a drought situation, and by order of our president, this burn ban is in effect here in Calcasieu Parish, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Mr. Dick Grimion, please state your name and position here with the parish, please.
Dick Grimion, Calcasieu Parish Officer, Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness Director. The weather conditions are really severe right now. I don't think a lot of people don't realize that the weather is so beautiful right now. But we're having the humidity is down around 35% during midday. We have high wind conditions, 10, 15 miles an hour during the middle of the day. And we're starting to see now a number of fires just caused by people throwing a cigarette out the window. The little island under the 210 bridge was on fire last night. And that was just from something that came from a vehicle going over the bridge. And we're having a lot of these grass fires in ditches, and it's a real manpower problem. During the daytime, as all of you know, most of our firefighters are volunteers, and most of them have a job that they have to be at during the day. So it's a severe problem, and we're not predicted to have any significant rainfall for the next 90 days. So through Christmas and New Year's, this is going to be a real issue.
Thank you, Mr. Grimion. Is there any question by the jury for Mr. Grimion? Thank you, Mr. Grimion.
One thing.
Mr. Stelly.
Mr. Grimion, this time of the year, you have farmers that are burning fields before plowing. What is the recommendation before they do that?
Well, I think in our ordinance and actually on the state level, people who are trained in agricultural prescribed burning are exempt from those regulations. But they need to follow the same guidelines that everyone else has. Have a fire break, have people ready. Obviously it wouldn't be advisable for one person to go out and try to burn 40 or 80 acres because if it gets away from them, it could cause their neighbors problems. So even for the agricultural interests, I think common sense really needs to dictate what people do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grimion. Thank you, Mr. Stelly.
Mr. President, that would be embers,
Mr.
not
McMillan.
ambers. Embers with an E. Thank you very much, my colleagues, for correcting me.
Mr. McMillan. Mr. McMillan. We had a motion and a second on that item. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. Item number 15 passes. Item number 16, consideration of adopting a resolution
Move on to 16.
authorizing the parish administrator to negotiate the terms and conditions of a lease agreement for office space on a certain portion of the third floor of the Magnolia Building. I have a motion by Mr. Collins and a second by Ms. Griffin. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. Item number 16 passes. Item number 17, consideration approval of grant year 2011
Move on
Road and
17.
Drainage Trust Fund grants as recommended by the Trust
Second.
Fund Rating Committee as follows. There were 4 applicants. Let me just read those 4 applicants and the amount of grant that was given. City of Lake Charles, $349,000. City of DeQuincy, $500,000. City of Sulphur, $240,000. GDD number 5 of Ward 4, $500,000. Grand total of $1,589,000. I have a motion by Mr. Spell and a second by Mr. Hassan. Is there any discussion? We do have discussion. Mr. Spell.
Just real quick, it combined with what we've previously awarded in the last 30 days, how much money have we put out there to drainage districts and municipalities for drainage improvements in Calcasieu Parish?
If you add this with, you referring, Mr. Spell, to the last meeting where you had that, this combined with that would be about $4 million.
Okay.
And there's another $926,000 that you set aside for later that's you've committed to drainage projects as those are recommendations continue. So you're getting, it'll be close to 5 before it's all over.
Again, these are great projects, Lake Charles, DeQuincy, Sulphur, Ward 4, great projects. I think this is a great program. Glad we're doing it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Spell. We had a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
Yes.
We do have discussion. Mr. Side.
I do have a discussion. I agree with my colleagues that it's a great program and that we have done a great job with that. But I do have concerns that we still have to figure out how we're going to get around the red tape of some of the other, because there are people who are losing their houses on these drainage, and they're not being compensated. So I know for sure that there are people who have actually their house has fallen in and they don't fall under the formula system. So we need to also take that in consideration. So while we are doing a great job, we still got a long way to go.
Thank you, Mr. Size. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 17 passes. Item number 18, take appropriate action to move the polling places
on
from
18.
voting
Second.
precincts 466E, 466 West, and 467 from Corliss Fire Station located at 5151 Volunteer Road, Corliss, to the newly constructed Cypress Cove Elementary School located at 700 Curry Drive. I have a motion by Mr. Fordham and a second by Mr. Hassan. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 18 passes. Item number 19, take appropriate action to fill a vacancy created by the resignation of Mr. Jonnings Hollingsworth as a member of the Board of Commissioners of Water District Number 7 of Ward 4 and 6. The Agenda Committee recommended that Mr. Ted Chapman be appointed. I have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Stelly. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 19 passes. Item number 20, take appropriate actions
Move
on
on
the
20.
expiration of the term
Second.
of Mr. John D. Duhon as a member of the Calcasieu Parish Planning and Zoning Board. The Agenda Committee recommended that Mr. Duhon be reappointed. I have a motion by Mr. Brame and a second by Mr. Stelly. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 20 passes. Item number 21, take appropriate actions on the expiration of the term of Mr. LaSalle Williams Sr. as a member of the Calcasieu Parish Planning and Zoning Board. The Agenda Committee recommended that Mr. Williams be reappointed. I have a motion by Mr. Brame and a second by Mr. McMillan. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 21 passes. Item number 22, take appropriate actions on the expiration of the term of Mr. Paul Guillory as a member of the Board of Commissioners of Ward 8, Fire Protection District Number 2. The Agenda Committee recommended that Mr. Guillory be reappointed. I have a motion by Mr. Stelly and a second by Mr. Collins. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 22 passes. Item number 23, take appropriate actions on the expiration of the term of Mr. Lester Goss as a member of the Board of Commissioners of Ward 4, Fire Protection District Number 3. The Agenda Committee recommended that Mr. Goss be reappointed. I have a motion by Ms. Griffin and a second by Mr. McMillan. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 23 passes. Item number 24, consideration of appointing and or ratifying the appointment of the following persons to the Calcasieu Parish Junior Golf Advisory Panel. Let me just read those names into the record, please. Mr. Derek Smith, Mr. Neil Derwin, Mr. Stuart Kramer, Mr. Bill Belcher, Ms. Robin Corville, Mr. Robbie Newton, Mr. George McGinnis, Mr. Albert Landry, Mr. Mike Bergeron, Mr. Anthony Borti, Mr. David Duplichan, Mr. Homer Williams. I have a motion by Mr. Size and a second by Ms. Griffin. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 24 passes. Item number 25, take appropriate actions on bids by the parish purchasing agent on September 22nd, 2010 for bulk oil and propane fuel. I have a motion by Mr. Size and a second by Dr. Mackey. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 25 passes. Item number 26, take appropriate actions on bids received by the parish purchasing agent on October 6, 2010 for one new and unused lowboy trailer for the use by the Division of Engineering and Public Works. I have a motion by Mr. Spell and a second by Dr. Mackey. Is there any discussion?
To defer.
To defer? I'm sorry. Agenda note states that staff recommend that the bid be deferred until October 21st, 2010. Thank you, Dr. Mackey. Item number 27, consideration of authorizing the parish purchasing agent to advertise for requests for proposals,
Move on
RFPs for
27.
lawn
Second.
and grounds maintenance. I have a motion by Mr. Fordham and a second by Mr. Spell. Is there any discussion?
Yeah.
We do have discussion. Mr. Size.
What is that? What are we saying we're doing?
Mr. Wainwright can address that.
Mr. Allen.
Yes, sir. What we're doing is seeking our request for proposals for services that could come in and help us maintain some of our park facilities. This particular proposal will start with service for Prairie Lake Park. And they were looking to see if these are some cost-cutting measures. As y'all know, we're faced with the challenge of trying to cut our costs. This is a way to seek out those proposals, see if there's opportunity there. We have no obligations, but we're seeking those. We're looking in that area for some of those services that we can push out and perhaps do cheaper.
Are we looking at discontinuing the group? Do we have a grass crew right now, right?
We currently have 4 or 5 employees that work at Prairie Lake Park. We would just, in this case, relocate those into our facilities department. I think Mr. Beam addressed some of the hiring issues earlier. We'll, through natural attrition of employees leaving, retiring, things like that, we're hoping to reduce our staff levels and use some of these services to take care of some of the work that we have to do.
And you say that the move that we're making is we're looking at employees retiring, but we're not looking at taking and letting the employees go at this moment.
No, sir. I want to be clear on that. This is not that kind of thing, but your departments have natural turnover, as all departments do, and we'll be able to substitute these services as needed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Size. Thank you, Mr. Wainwright. Mr. Brame.
Thank you, President Gitter. Alan, I think that's a good idea. I mean, to be able to maybe put that type of ground maintenance into the public sector, I think we can save some money. Also, not only that, but on the maintenance of the equipment that I know that we maintain. We'd also have to cut down on the purchases of equipment that we buy, shuffle it around the area. But I'm anxious to see the savings, you know, if they are there. I'm anxious to see what the savings will actually be.
If I may, Mr. Brame, I think we're very anxious to see that too. This is a no obligations package. We have been doing our research at this level to put a package together we think is a fair comparison, and we're anxious to see those results ourselves. We'll make the determination on a fair basis. You know, if it is in fact cheaper, we'll need to go that route.
Okay. Are we going to send this to local contractors?
Yeah, sure. This will be sent out to local contractors, but as you know, we have to advertise this through, really on the internet now, so it'll actually be open to anyone. That's just the nature of how we have to advertise these things now.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. Appreciate it. Brian. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. Alan, is this just for Prairie Lake Park that we're going out for? Because it says on here, Paris facilities and parks. I mean, what are we going here?
What we did exactly is this particular package is designed around the maintenance required at Prairie Lake Park as a single package. We would anticipate, though, and it's clearly worded in the RFP, that at the point where we would select a contractor capable of handling our priority park, if I would use those words, that we would extend those services as we were able to negotiate similar prices or even better prices and save more money. Again, this is all assuming that this will be cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
So do you already know what it costs us to maintain Prairie Lake Park right now?
Yes, sir, we do. That's why we started there. There's a separate budget, an organizational budget for Prairie Lake Park right now. So it's not exactly easy to compare, because those guys that are out there do a lot more than just maintain the lawn and grounds. I mean, they keep your buildings up. You know, they do a lot of other things. So it's not apples to apples in that regard, but we're making our comparisons and trying to analyze whether we will net out cheaper costs to the citizens to run those parks.
So this would be specifically for lawn care and landscaping?
Yes, sir. This is specific for that area. So the bed maintenance, all the grass cutting, herbicides, all the things that go along in that group.
Well, I'd be interested in seeing the cost too, because just a thought in my mind. I mean, we're saving on equipment, the life of the equipment, but we're still going to have all the same employees. And I mean, how do we keep all the same employees but yet hire out new people with their? I'm all for private people doing it, but how do we save money outside of the life of our equipment?
I don't want to mislead anyone in this endeavor. It's not intended to have the same amount of employees. That I think it wouldn't make a lot of sense. People retire, people leave for other jobs. I wouldn't necessarily say better jobs. our department currently is running several positions short now. I don't want to guess, but it's over 10, I think, at this moment. So we've already shrunk in terms of the employees that we do not have. It's a matter of trying to now continue to provide that same service a little different way, a cheaper way.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Mr. Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Alan, I think you answered it. What your ultimate goal is to only have one contractor for
Yes,
the
sir.
entire parish?
That would be ideal. I'm not sure that that's going to be possible. We're tiptoeing into this. We got to make sure there's a contractor capable of handling it. As we start to try and manage multiple contracts for multiple areas of service, from my perspective, it would be nice to only have one doing lawn care.
Sure.
That may or may not be possible. There's other models out there, and the intent here is to start small and work in a direction and see where we end up.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan. Mr. Brain.
Brian, did you tell Alan that was my idea?
Yeah, he said, go ahead and give Mr. Brame the credit on that one. He said he didn't mind. If I could just point out, too, on the other side of that, we are looking to save money, but we want to make sure that it's done well, too. And any service, that's why it's called a service. The quality is going to be important, and that's why this is a request for proposal, not a bid. The criteria for the decision on which one is proposed is partly price, but it's also other factors that will provide some assurances that whoever gets this could handle the job, because parks are a representation of your level of service, and I know it's the first thing y'all get calls on, and we do, especially parks like Prien Lake. It takes a lot to keep that looking like it does, get a lot of good feedback, but we don't want to lessen the quality, but we think we can maintain that level at a more reasonable cost, but we are going to have to experiment, and we'll keep the jury informed as we go, and y'all give us your guidance.
Thank you, Mr. Beam. Is there any other questions by the jury? We have a motion and a second on that. Any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. Item number 27 passes. Item number 28, consideration of authorizing the parish purchasing agent to advertise for bids for the following: concrete rivette mats, mosquito control chemicals, gasoline and diesel fuel, concrete pipe, metal pipe, and mosquito control solvents. I have a motion by Mr. Collins and a second by Dr. Mackey. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 28 passes. Item number 29, consideration of adopting a resolution declaring various parish items as surplus property to be sold as appropriate as a trade-in or through the eGov auction, parish auction, or by bids for private sales. I have a motion by Mr. Size and a second by Mr. Fordham. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? Item number 29 passes. Before we close, I'd like to point of personal privilege to our parish administrator, Mr. Brian Beam.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to briefly mention that tonight is Alana Weston's last night covering the police jury for the American Press. She's done a great job, in my opinion, on covering you as a body, very professional, very thorough in her coverage of police jury business, as well as fair and looking at all sides of an issue. And we're going to miss her, and I just wanted to mention it to you. She is from and lives in the DeRidder area. I think she'll be up there, but she's done a great job, and I just want to recognize her contribution.
Thank you, Mr. Beam. Would she like to come up and tell us how great of a governing body we are? Thank you, and we do appreciate the coverage. And with that, I would ask for a motion.
Hold
on. Mr. Size, before we adjourn. Mr. Size.
I have one more thing I'd like to say. Just like my colleague just mentioned a while ago, Mr. Scott, about the healthy discussion that we had with concerning the animal control. I too have concerns right now of something that we need to look at. And I don't know exactly where we go from here, but we as a parish governing body needs to look at what we need to do as far as if it's state, local, what it is, of trying to address a basic problem across the street without getting killed. And I mean, we need to look at crosswalks. We need to look at these 5-lane roads having what they have in all other cities, a push button deal that gives a person a right of way to walk across the street. Because right now we need something to address people's right to be able to walk across the street safely. In my district by itself, I've lost lives. This last week, since we met this last week, 3 lives have been lost. And it's all because we need to have something out here recognizing people's basic right to walk across the street. You know, there are death traps being set up every day, these widening of these lanes, these highways, and they're not assisting people of ways to cross the street. So we as a body, if you come up with a resolution or something that we need to come back and say the state, the local municipalities, someone needs to look at how we can make this a safer place for our citizens. So, you know, that's my piece.
That's a great point, Mr. Sires, and I hope that we can move forward on that as a city and parish because there's been a couple of tragedies that have happened here in our city in the past week, so I'm hoping that we can address that. With that being said, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Hassan. We're now adjourned.